Hello and welcome back to Maritime Genie. Just a little while ago, I had the pleasure of visiting Australia and the port of Brisbane. The environmental control officer at the port of Brisbane surprised me when she told me that the ballast pump capacity we had narrated on our forms was incorrect. Now that was a real surprise because up to the best of my knowledge, the ballast pump capacity that we stated on the forms was actually and absolutely correct. And when I politely inquired from her that what she actually meant by stating the ballast pump capacity as wrong or incorrect, her answer was not less than surprising. According to the lady, the ballast pump is like a fan. Wow. According to her, just like the performance of the fan depreciates with the passage of time, the performance of the ballast pump should also do that. And just for the record, I do not agree with that at all. Keeping all of that in mind and keeping the interest of all of our fellow mariners in view, I have decided to make this video. What answer you are going to give to that environmental control officer, or what measures are you going to take? Certainly, that is your own decision. My point is that while I'm sitting here right now, I'll try to clarify that a ballast pump is anything but not like the fan. Ballast pump on a vessel can be driven either by the steam or by the electric motor. And generally, the ballast pump is a centrifugal pump, which means that the capacity of a ballast pump is dependent upon many factors. On all of the vessels, and I'm sure on your vessel as well, there is a curve that is placed on board a vessel to find out the capacity of a ballast pump, or for that matter, any cargo pump or any centrifugal pump or the screw pump or any other pump. This curve is called as the HQ curve. As this video is not about HQ curve, so I'm not going to discuss that in detail. But one thing I'd like to mention over here, one thing that is very, very important, and that is the capacity of the pump that is stated on the HQ curve. This capacity of the pump that is stated at the HQ curve, especially if you have a centrifugal pump, is the average capacity. It is by no means the maximum discharge rate. It is a reference for you to know that if the pump has a certain head, it is running at certain RPM, and if it has a certain height or a distance at which it has to discharge, then this would be the capacity of that pump. When your centrifugal pump is running, your pump has the ability to discharge more than this and less than this. These two things are dependent upon the head that the pump has. When we talk of the head, we are actually referring to the amount of water that is inside your ballast tanks. This amount of water in a ballast tank is measured either by measuring the height, or commonly called as sounding, or alleging, which is the space between the water and the tank head. The higher this height is, the more your pump will discharge at the same RPM. In case of the electric motors, as was the case on my vessel, your pump is always running or mostly running at a constant RPM. If you have a centrifugal ballast pump like mine was, and if the motor is electric like it was on our vessel, then the pump's capacity is almost completely dependent upon the head that the pump has. The higher the water is, the more the pump will discharge. If you have a ballast pump whose capacity is around 2,500 meter cubes, as was in our case, and if you have a tank that is full of water, and if you want to discharge that tank full of water with this electric ballast pump, it will discharge more than 2,500 meter cubes per hour. Now, to clarify this matter, and just as an example, I have downloaded one HQ curve from the internet. If you see this graph closely, then the RPM of this pump is 3540 or 3540. On the graph's left side and right side, you see the total head in feet and total head in meters. And at the bottom is the Q or meter cubes per hour or the flow rate. Now, when we are talking of a centrifugal pump, then there is one thing that is called as NPSH, or net positive suction head. What is NPSH, or what is net positive suction head? For example, if you have a tank that is full of water and the height of water in that tank is 15 meters, that is 1.5, and if your ballast pump has to take suction from that tank and it has to discharge that water to a height of 10 meters, then your NPSH or net positive suction will be 15 minus 10, that is 5 meters. If we convert 5 meters into feet, then your NPSH or net positive suction head would be approximately 16 feet. If we have a look at this graph, and if we see the NPSH of 16 feet that is marked over here, and we cross that to the pump's curve, what we find out is that the pump will discharge at approximately a capacity of 45 meter cubes per hour. Now let's reduce that NPSH or net positive suction head. Let us assume that the height of water in your tank is 10 meters. Your centrifugal pump has to take the suction and discharge to a height of 10 meters. That means your NPSH is approximately 0. Now if we go to a suction head of 0 or NPSH 0, and if we draw a line, the 0 is approximately going to be over here, and if we draw a line to this to this curve, what we will see is that your pump will be discharging at a capacity of 10 meter cubes per hour. We are assuming in this example that our impeller has a blade which is of 7 inches. Now it is absolutely clear that when NPSH or net positive suction head drops, your pump's flow rate will reduce and its performance will degrade. Now, same is true when your NPSH or net positive suction head increases. In this graph, if we assume that your NPSH or net positive suction head is more than 20 feet, and if we draw a line on the same 7-inch propeller diameter pump, then you will see that your pump will discharge approximately 48 meter cubes per hour. So as the suction head NPSH increases, your pump's flow rate or capacity will increase. If you open up your books now and if you see your HQ curves now, you will also reach to the same conclusion. The HQ curve that is stated in your books is at an average NPSH. When we say that our pump has a capacity of 2500 meter cubes per hour, it does not mean that your pump will keep on discharging at the same capacity throughout the operation. It will certainly not. At the initial stage of deballasting, when your tanks are high, your pump will discharge at a higher rate. As the liquid level in your ballast tanks will keep dropping, the efficiency of your ballast pump will keep dropping with it. The capacity of your ballast pump will decrease either if the propeller blades of your impeller have eroded a lot, or in case your electric motor is not performing well, or in case if you're running with a steam motor, you are unable to get the RPM that you're supposed to. Otherwise, and in case your ballast pump is in good condition, it does not really matter if your vessel is 9 years old or 10 years old or even 15 years old. I have seen the vessels whose age was around 16 years old and her ballast pumps were performing to their full capacity. I guess they were properly maintained. That's pretty much today's video, and I'm sure that in today's video you guys might have learned something and you guys might have got something out of it. If you did, do consider to give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to this channel. I'll try my best to keep bringing all the knowledge to you that is not in your books. And if you have more suggestions or more topics or anything that you think might be of very good common interest, do mention that in comments, or if there is any topic that you want me to discuss on this channel, please do mention that in the comment section. Take very good care of yourself and happy learning.